project, I chose internet censorship, human rights, and the Chinese government. I really thought that this topic would be very interesting, so I hope that you do too. A firewall in this case for censorship was used on the internet from the Chinese government, where they don't allow their citizens to research many websites. They don't give them access to a lot of things, especially in other countries, social networking, the list, it really goes on and on. So a firewall essentially just blocks information from the government, allowing the citizens to see information. Within internet censorship, especially in China, some countries have developed software programs, two of them being called Peekaboo system and then Animizer, and both of these have been used to allow citizens to view websites or anything internet related that they wanted to view. Beginning with the Peekaboo system, this one is not as intensive. It doesn't send as many packages to the servers as does the Animizer. And it is also a lot cheaper than the other one. And then as far as the Animizer software, it involves a lot of servers, and then the governments would in turn, to help the citizens view information, they would need a lot of funding. And because of these two software that have been developed, the Internet Freedom Act and the Global Online Freedom Act have come out of them, which in turn has created other laws because the Chinese government and other governments that censor internet have not been okay with what other countries have been doing to them. So because the government is obviously going to be upset that other countries are helping its citizens see the information that it's not wanting them to see, some acts and laws have come out of place. The first one being the Global Internet Freedom Act, and then because of that, the Global Online Freedom Act came into effect. And these laws essentially have just allowed people to view ideas that the governments are really not okay with the user seeing. And these have all been privately contributed to, and because of those two acts, the obscenity law and then the community standards test have come into effect. And the community standards law allows for the courts, when someone does publish information that the court, or I shouldn't say the court, that the government is not okay with, for the court to decide whether or not the content is considered obscene, and basically the person publishing this information must abide by the country's rules or the establishment's rules, because you don't want people going around saying bad things about certain companies and that such when it comes to like the e-commerce market. So, and then although that these acts have come into a place, one issue is that in China, it's generally only well-educated people or wealthy men that do have a say in the pull of the government or have access to the internet. Not everyone really does. So even if acts and laws like this come into a place, it doesn't necessarily help the citizens. So Google, being a major company, I should say globally, has also had issues when it comes to China and the censorship that they have with their citizens between them and the government. But one huge issue, I guess, is that Google compromises the user's freedom of expression, essentially, because they store the user's information and have given that to the U.S. government to promote products or to help the U.S. government with information. And this is not healthy between the U.S. government and the Chinese government, and it also is a violation of human rights for users to have their information violated. But at the same time, these users did agree to the terms and conditions. And then also, Hillary Clinton and Obama both have met with Chinese leaders, and they've come to say things like information should be free, and not only that, when the governments do allow the citizens to view more information, they become more accountable to holding their word, or to essentially be voted in again, or for the citizens to trust them. And that can be a biased view, but that is how the U.S. government sees it as far as the government for China. And then Hillary Clinton also really made a good point when I was doing some research. She went on to say that at one time we did have the firewall of China, or not firewall, the Great Wall of China, and now essentially the firewall of China is no different. It's virtual. We don't see it, but you feel like the effects of it. So one popular case that occurred in China was the Asoptis tofu case, often referred to as the Wang Hang case. And this did result in imprisonment, as have a lot of other cases where citizens or companies or the government has felt that the information that was being controlled was violated by either the citizen or the company, and I mean the list just, it goes on and on and on. So this popular Chinese case actually happened in the technology-related field, where a consumer in China posted a complaint about the quality of a screen repair done by a computer company. And because the firewall wasn't entirely blocked for the person who had bought, or who had done this screen repair, and the consumer wasn't able to see the entire post about like all the issues on the web, the company claimed that there was unequalness, and it wasn't fair due to the firewalls amongst China. And then when imprisonment was blasted to the entire world because citizens were very upset with this outcome because of the unfairness between the company and the consumer, defamation and consumer protection laws came into effect. And the defamation laws essentially is designed to protect reputation through awards of civil damages, which presumably deter false speech. And in this law, it simply just protects individuals' rights to the freedom of insult, false charges, or frame-up. So because the citizen didn't intentionally try to destroy this company or to have false claims, they did not end up in prison. And then another case that actually happened was Hu Hai. He had used his personal home phone, many cell phones, a computer, and a video camera to get information out to the world about the abuse from the Chinese government. To this day, how he specifically got around the firewall is unknown, but the government in turn did find out about it, and it was a long battle between the husband himself and his wife and the Chinese government. And then the government ended up lying to the public about everything, I guess, that was going on. And then they tried to leave, and then his wife's passport and visa and many other aspects were like taken away, or they were suddenly no good in order to contain the people in the country so that they couldn't leave. And in the end, Hu Hai ended up having 20 police break into his apartment and take all of his technology-related items, all because he wanted the world essentially to know what was going on in the Chinese government. So human ideology is a huge part of human rights and what the governments can control or contain the people for. And the first principle that I found about human ideology speaks volumes. It says that every individual has an equal claim to the basic rights and liberties to be guaranteed by the social, political, basic structures. If liberties are uncontrolled, they collide with each other, and where controls are necessary, and they are to be only for the sake of liberty. So in this sense, it's essentially not the place of the government to control social technology, forums, blogs, any kind of media, and the government in the end shouldn't have to intervene in the freedom of speech by these people. And along with the first part of this principle, the second part came of it, which was the difference principle and the quality of opportunity. And the difference principle states that certain social and economic inequalities do exist, yet they are to be arranged to the benefit of the least advantaged members of society. The qualities of opportunity part of the principle also states that the position and offices are open to all under conditions of fair equality of opportunity. So in terms of all this censorship, the citizens essentially have the least advantaged, and they're the least advantaged members of the society. And because the world at first and continually doesn't always necessarily know what is being blocked by the Chinese government, it is also unfair. Part of this research paper that I had talked about was cyberspace freedom, and in 2010 the Chinese government actually released a statement saying that they would guarantee the citizens' freedom of speech on the internet as well as the public's right to know, to participate, to be heard, and to oversee the government in accordance with the law. But the main problem with this is that because of the type of government that the Chinese are, the part where it says that it's as long as it's in accordance with the law, it's what the Chinese law and it's what the Chinese government officials want. And then I guess even comparing it to the United States, the main things that we here censor are pornography or other adult contents, essentially anything that could harm children or that could be harming children. And like the FBI will watch if you're looking up terrorists and that kind of thing, you will be on high alert if you start traveling. But we in the United States give our citizens the benefit of the doubt and have made laws such as the Child Online Protection Law that have gave trust to the citizens to view information that they felt was appropriate.